Throughout history, philosophers have dared to ask the questions most of us shy away from. Challenges to the laws of nature, the fabric of morality, even the very reality we call home. Some of these ideas have been welcomed, others have burned like wildfires through debates, classrooms, and inner worlds. Tonight, we step into this arena of curiosity and courage, exploring the most controversial philosophical concepts ever imagined. These are the theories that flip established wisdom upside down, the riddles that refuse to be solved, the beliefs that unsettle as much as inspire. From the nature of free will and the meaning of existence, to questions about truth, morality, and reality itself. Each take on this list is a door to deeper thought and sometimes to deeper wonder or discomfort. So find a comfortable spot to lay down and let your mind wander through the shadowy halls of intellectual rebellion. These are the ideas that have shaped, divided, and transformed the way we see ourselves and the world. A perfect companion for a night of reflection, curiosity, and insight. Determinism and free will. Picture yourself beneath a vast, star-strewn sky. Above you, a billion galaxies shimmer in silent procession, ordered, timeless, each movement the echo of ancient energies. Beneath such enormity, a question pulses. Do you truly direct your fate, or are you a passenger on rails set before your birth? This is the paradox at the heart of the debate between determinism and free will, a debate that has haunted and inspired human thought for centuries. For much of human history, people have turned to the heavens for answers. To early astronomers, the regularity of the stars, tides, and seasons painted the universe as a colossal machine, each part governed by strict order and necessity. This was the age of determinism, the conviction that all things, from planets to people, are bound by cause and effect. Imagine the universe as a grand clockwork. Every gear, every atom and neuron turns because another has set it in motion. By this vision, your own thoughts and choices, even the flickering desires that spark in your mind as you listen, are simply the latest link in a chain stretching back to the dawn of all things. From the Enlightenment onward, philosophers such as Laplace and Spinoza argued that if we but knew all conditions in the cosmos, we could predict every future action, right down to your next breath or blink. As chilling as it is sublime, the idea of total determinism put humans and the cosmos alike under the rule of universal law. But can we live as if this is true? If determination is total, the very heart of morality, justice, and personal growth trembles. Imagine a court where every criminal, indeed every good Samaritan, could claim their actions were set in stone by forces beyond their control. If your thoughts and deeds are prescripted, if the path to virtue or villainy was charted long before you ever learned your name, can you truly be praised or blamed? In such a world, is there any justice in punishing or rewarding people for deeds they had no hand in shaping? Every system of law, every codex of ethics stands or collapses on the belief that somewhere in the tangled mind and matter we possess real agency. Despite the theory, each morning you awaken and choose what to eat, who to call, how to spend your hours. You may hesitate, reconsider, or regret, feelings that seem to presuppose real choice. Our entire sense of meaning, triumph, and regret is shaped by the conviction that things might have been otherwise. This lived experience, the sense that we are the pilots of our fate, is among the most unyielding of human intuitions. But is intuition enough? The 20th century brought scientific shocks. Physics revealed a universe more unruly than the clockwork of earlier centuries. Quantum mechanics, the study of nature at its smallest scales, found randomness nestled at the heart of the atom. Electrons might appear or vanish with probabilities, not certainties. Does this mean there is true freedom in the world? Not so fast. Randomness, pure chance, is no more free than absolute law. The universe decided by dice is not one where you control the roll. At the same time, neuroscience digs deeper. Experiments suggest that the brain gives off signals pointing to a decision milliseconds before you consciously become aware of making it. Is free will merely the illusion produced by mind after the fact? Merely the storyteller of a drama written elsewhere? Here, thinkers diverge. Spinoza taught that freedom is not the ability to escape necessity, but to understand it. The wise person is not the one who believes themselves absolutely free, but the one who sees the mechanism and embraces their role within it. Nietzsche turned the equation upside down. The greatest courage lies in saying yes to every moment, affirming one's path as if you had chosen it, even in the face of endless recurrence. Sartre declared that humankind is condemned to be free. In a godless, uncharted cosmos, there can be no excuses. We must forge our own meaning, responsible for every action, every thought, every world we create or destroy. And still, the discourse rages. Compatibilists claim that freedom and determinism are not opposites, so long as you act according to your desires and intentions. Even if those desires themselves have causes, you are free enough. Incompatibilists disagree, searching for a truer sense of autonomy. In our own era, new questions arise. Digital algorithms claim more and more of our decisions, predicting our preferences and behaviors before we even notice ourselves. Is the human mind at last revealed as merely a fantastically complex machine, one that, like AI, follows scripts written by genetics and environment? And yet, as ever, the question returns. If we were designed to ask if we were free, is not the asking itself a kind of rebellion, a creative act? In stories we tell, myths, epics, memoirs, characters rail against destiny or embrace it, love fate or strive against it. The stories endure because even as science and philosophy push us towards humility, our experience as choosers, authors in a book half written, never fully departs. Your own life unwinds along these lines daily. Were you meant to encounter this story, to ponder these words? Or is this moment, right now, one of infinite branching possibilities, a declaration of the deepest freedom, or just the completion of causes set in train before the sun rose this morning? Perhaps the final wisdom lies not in choosing between determinism and freedom, but in holding the paradox gently. We are stitched into the fabric of causation, yet within that embroidery lies play, creativity, resistance, laughter, and rebellion. At day's end, as you let sleep envelop you, imagine the universe not as a prison, but as a dance, where patterns rise and dissolve, and in every step there is room for surprise. Your dreams tonight may be shaped by deep unconscious forces, by chemicals and patterns beneath awareness, or by the stray thought you chose to embrace as you drifted away. And in this flickering moment, choice or destiny, you are fully, beautifully human. Moral nihilism. Imagine a quiet room, candlelight fluttering across shelves piled with ancient books. Here, on nights when the world outside falls silent, philosophers have gathered for millennia to probe humanity's deepest questions. One inquiry has always cut through the darkness. Is there really such a thing as right and wrong? Or are moral judgments that guide our lives and ignite our fiercest conflicts merely myths, stories spun by clever apes to keep society orderly? Across time, most cultures have cherished the idea that moral truths are real and universal, etched in the stars, decreed by gods, or woven into the very fabric of the cosmos. Yet lurking at the foundation of these beliefs is a chilling possibility. What if these rules aren't real at all? What if good and evil are just names, shifting sands in a desert of meaninglessness? This is the dark heart of moral nihilism, the conviction that, in the end, no action is truly right or wrong, noble or wicked. There are no built-in values, no cosmic scales weighing our deeds, only the stories we tell wrapped around the void. To understand moral nihilism, visualize a world untouched by ethics, no righteous crusaders, no wicked villains, theft, kindness, betrayal, bravery, each stripped of ultimate significance, judged only by the preferences and customs of their time and place. Such a vision is dizzying. Many recoil at its implications. If nothing is truly right or wrong, Can anything be forbidden? Does justice lose all weight? Is love just a convenient fiction? Yet, the moral nihilist asks, by whose authority are some values judged higher or more real than others? As travellers through time and space have noted, what is sin in one era is virtue in the next. What is revered in one land is reviled in another. Slaveholding, dueling, self-sacrifice, even dietary taboos, every absolute has proven fragile. For some, the very thought sows despair. If all is permitted, how do we restrain darkness? But certain philosophers find strange liberation in the collapse of moral certainties. Here lies the canvas on which individuals and societies can paint their own values, rooted not in mandates handed down from on high, but in empathy, reason, and shared goals. The universe, as the nihilist sees it, is silent. The stars do not shudder at murder, nor does gravity bend for mercy. Aught does not emerge from what is. If meaning is to be found, it must be forged. But not all surrender so easily. Many thinkers push back. There must be some reality to morals. The discipline of moral realism argues that certain values are woven into the universe. Acts like torture or callous deceit, they maintain, stand out as wrong in all worlds to all rational beings. Moral facts, like mathematical truths, wait to be discovered, not invented. Cultural relativists observe that each society spins its own web of meaning, while expressivists see moral language as an outpouring of emotion, desire, or attitude, but not objective fact. Modern science adds complexity. Psychologists note that our deepest ethical instincts may arise from evolved survival strategies to protect family, shun poison, cherish fairness. These instincts feel absolute, but are built from ancient animal needs. Neuroscientists unveil still more puzzles. Decision-making, they find, often bubbles up unconsciously, long before we rationalize it. Are our ethical feelings just after-the-fact justifications of neural impulses with no anchor in objective truth? So, if morality is myth, what becomes of civilization? Our courts, laws, and rights rest on assumptions. Some values are more than opinion. The United Nations upholds universal human rights, but on what basis? If all morality is a veil of custom and feeling, some worry, might makes right. Justice is the wish of the strong. But humans are, above all, social. The need to cooperate, trust, and coexist leads us to stories that function, constructs that, while not true in any cosmic sense, enable society to work. Yet, history's tragedies remind us how fragile these constructions can be. When shared moral myths erode through cultural collision, war, or the rise of destructive ideologies, societies risk sliding into chaos or tyranny. So is despair the only answer? Not for all. Many philosophers and artists, faced with the abyss, turn back toward one another. If the universe gives no answer to the question of why to do good, then it is up to us to create answers in this brief sweep of consciousness. The existentialist tradition, rooted in thinkers like Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre, sees dignity and courage in this act. We must imagine Sisyphus happy, Camus wrote, pushing his stone eternally up the mountain, finding purpose not in the will of the gods, but in his own defiance. Others claim that after nihilism comes the birth of value. If the gods are silent, then let us become caretakers, finding moral worth not in cosmic decree, but in the human potential for empathy, creativity, and solidarity. As you close your eyes, let these questions move gently through your mind. If good and evil are not written in the stars, how shall we choose to live? On what will we find our kindness, our justice, our hope? Perhaps meaning floats, not eternally, but in each small gesture, in the friend consoled, the hand offered, the story told around the fire. Moral nihilism is not a prison, but a challenge, a fierce wind that blows away easy comforts, then asks us to rebuild. As night falls, reflect on the mystery of meaning, not given, but made. The simulation hypothesis. Picture a morning where sunlight pours through your window. You rise to familiar sights: the wooden floor beneath your feet, the ticking of a wall clock, the sound of birds outside. Everything feels concrete, undeniable. The world is as solid and real as your own breath. But now, pause. Look more closely. Not just at what you see, but at how you see it. How light moves across the room. How your memory flips back through days and dreams. The simulation hypothesis asks you, what if this vivid reality, in all its certainty, is the product of something unseen? What if you, your memories, joys, and even this moment of reflection are the code and calculation of a world running not on atoms, but on algorithms? Contemplating life as an illusion isn't new. Ancient philosophers in both East and West have pondered the possibility. Plato's allegory of the cave describes people chained in darkness, mistaking shadows for substance. Descartes, centuries later, imagined an evil demon weaving a false world for our senses. But unlike these philosophical tales, the simulation hypothesis doesn't rely on magic or spirits. It is instead the brainchild of technological possibility, a marriage of modern computing and ancient metaphysical doubt. The notion that we might be living inside a simulated world was once the stuff of science fiction. The Matrix, Tron, countless novels and speculative stories. But as technology advanced, the line between fiction and plausible speculation began to blur. When philosopher Nick Bostrom published his influential paper in 2003, the simulation hypothesis gained startling scientific credibility. He proposed that, given the rapid growth of computation, future civilizations could wield such immense processing power that simulating entire universes, including billions of conscious agents, would become not only possible, but perhaps inevitable. Bostrom's challenge was simple. If advanced civilizations tend to run ancestor simulations, and even if a fraction of these simulations contain conscious beings, then statistically, it's far more probable for any one conscious being to reside in a simulation than in the original baseline reality. Does evidence for the simulation exist? That's where the debate intensifies. Some point to the uncanny perfection of physical laws or the pixelation hinted at in quantum phenomena. The universe, with its quantized energy levels, the apparent graininess at the Planck scale, and the speed limit of light, might be artifacts of a finely tuned digital universe rather than random natural chaos. Cosmology offers further puzzles. The remarkable fine-tuning of constants for life, the sudden appearance of dark energy, the peculiarities of quantum measurement. Are these bugs, features, or clues? Yet, most physicists urge caution, pointing out that such phenomena can be explained, at least partially, without the need for simulation, and that every prior mystery in science has often yielded new, natural explanations. If we are simulation, what are we? Are you a free-thinking being, or an avatar in a hyper-advanced video game? Philosophers and cognitive scientists debate whether true consciousness could ever emerge in code, or whether what we call self is merely an illusion produced by complex computation. This leads to the age-old mind-body problem, only now filtered through silicon rather than flesh. Is your pain, your love, your quiet moments of awe as real as they feel, or the world's finest counterfeit? Some simulation proponents answer, if the experience is indistinguishable from real reality, then the distinction is moot. We are, in every meaningful sense, as alive as any other product of the universe. And if our creators coded in suffering, joy, or longing, what does it mean for moral responsibility? Do simulated beings count as people? Is there a higher meaning? Or are we, as philosopher David Chalmers mused, digital minds in a digital cosmos, forever wondering after the curtain pullers? A favourite speculation among simulation supporters is the idea of glitches, strange coincidences, déjà vu, or unexplainable physical anomalies. If our creators grow bored, angry, or curious, could they alter the fabric of our universe with subtle or dramatic effects? Some point to the persistent mysteries of consciousness, quantum randomness, or unpredictable events as possible hints. Yet science, skeptical as ever, holds that unknown does not mean unnatural. Suppose for a moment that all this is code. Does it make your life matter less or more? Some argue that simulated meaning is as real as any. After all, our feelings, our connection, our creation of art, empathy and beauty, they serve us regardless of substrate. Others worry that the thought tempts fatalism. If we are playthings in someone else's game, does striving, loving, or suffering gain or lose value? But as in The Matrix, the protagonist's journey centers not on escape, but on choosing meaning, purpose, and resistance within the illusion. This leaves us with three possibilities. 1. Civilizations never gain the ability to run simulations, or they destroy themselves first. 2. Those that do gain the power choose not to simulate conscious universes. 3. Or simulations are run, and we almost certainly live inside one. So where do we place our wager? Skeptics hold to the hope that reality is what it seems, a physical world, not pixels and code. But the simulation hypothesis captures a certain technological mythos, the sense that even our gods, should they exist, were computer engineers. As you dream, watch the patterns. Are they yours alone, or planted by a grand designer? If every neuron's firing, every star's flare, every heartbeat is a product of digital calculation, what do you choose to make of your own story? For as long as humans can question, we will always ponder what's behind the curtain. Perhaps the answer does not change how we live, love, or create. For the moment, pixel or particle, meaning is made here. Philosophical pessimism. The world can be a cold, indifferent place. Beneath its shimmering beauty, a truth lies. A realization that suffering, struggle, and sorrow are woven deeply into the fabric of existence. This profound insight forms the heart of philosophical pessimism, a line of thought that embraces the darkness as the defining condition of life. Imagine waking daily to the inevitable news of loss. The star's light that warms you hints at cosmic indifference. Joy is fleeting, pain eternal. Let us journey back to the 19th century and the sobering wisdom of Arthur Schopenhauer. He saw the human will not as a liberator, but as a tormentor, ceaseless, insatiable, the cause of an unending cycle of desire and disappointment. Schopenhauer believed life to be a pendulum swinging between unbearable craving and painful boredom. Each fulfilled desire breeds another, and in waiting for satisfaction, we forget that the moment of joy is but a reprieve before the next storm. Yet from this bleak vantage point, Schopenhauer found unexpected solace in art, especially music. It could momentarily quiet the will, offering a glimpse into the eternal stillness beyond suffering. Later philosophers, Emile Cioran's poetic despair, Thomas Ligotti's creeping horror, plumb these depths, painting the human condition as a shadow dance, beautiful but haunting. Cioran, with his mournful aphorisms, whispered that it is not worth the bother of killing yourself, since you always kill yourself too late. Ligotti, writing in the modern era, sketches worlds where hope is an illusion and horror the most honest genre. Their writings are music for those who find beauty in the melancholic acknowledgement of pain. But pessimism is not defeat. It is a call to radical honesty, confronting the human condition without illusions, finding dignity amid inevitability. In art and literature, from Dostoevsky to Kafka, pessimism threads a dark but vital strand, a way of being fully awake, witnessing both shadow and sun. Philosophical pessimism does not merely stare into the void, but invites us to walk with open eyes into the storm. Arthur Schopenhauer, often called the philosopher of despair, saw human life as a tragic journey. The will, he posited, is the driving force behind desire, the unquenchable thirst that pushes us forward, yet never grants lasting satisfaction. Each want fulfilled is but the faint echo that invites new longing. But in accepting this, Schopenhauer believed we awaken to a deeper freedom, the recognition that trying to escape the will is both futile and the path to wisdom. The arts, especially music, were his sanctuary, a portable transcendence where the relentless striving hushes into silence. And it is not only despair, but also wonder. To gaze at the night sky and acknowledge the vastness, the cold, the indifference, is to find humility and even beauty in our brief flicker. Later thinkers embracing pessimism, from Choron's brooding words to Ligotti's haunting horror tales, extend this insight into modern times. They challenge the culture of superficial optimism and relentless positivity, reminding us that the shadow and light are inseparable. In the modern dance, these philosophies inspire art, literature, and even our grappling with mental health. Our technology-driven age often blinds us to the ancient continuity of suffering, but also to the possibility of grace. Existentialists respond to pessimism with radical responsibility. Sartre's famous declaration, "Existence precedes essence," proclaims our freedom to choose meaning in an indifferent universe. Even in pain, we make beauty. For Sartre, freedom is no gift but a burden, condemned to choose, condemned to create meaning in a world devoid of divine purpose. This fierce autonomy demands courage to face the meaninglessness and affirm meaning anyway. Camus too insists that we must imagine Sisyphus happy, finding joy not in victory over suffering, but in the ongoing, courageous struggle itself. Philosophical pessimism challenges the relentless optimism endemic to culture. It asks, what if our narratives of progress and triumph obscure a deeper truth of suffering? Yet it also invites compassion for ourselves and for others, urging us to see suffering not as a failure, but as a fact of being. True pessimism is not cynicism, but a teacher of resilience. It strips away false hope in order to build a stronger, more realistic hope, one founded on honest acknowledgement and solidarity. Pessimism, when properly understood, does not quench the human spirit. It tempers it, giving clarity in chaos and grace in grief. The trolley problem. Imagine standing on a quiet railway platform on a gloomy afternoon. The shrill whistle of an approaching train interrupts the calm. Ahead lies a branching track, a split in fate itself. Down one track, 5 people are tied, unable to move, destined for doom. Down the other, a single individual suffers the same cruel fate. You stand near a lever, the power to divert this train from the 5 to the 1. Your hand tightens the lever. Hesitation mounts. What do? This is the essence of the trolley problem, a philosophical thought experiment that has gripped minds since the 1960s and inspired endless debate, moral reflection, and even nightmares. It asks at its core, when forced to choose between lives, how should we act, and what does that choice say about who we are? The trolley problem was first introduced by philosopher Philippa Foot in 1967, and later expanded by Judith Jarvis Thomson and others. Its parable lies simple and stark. 2 versions. The switch. Do you pull the lever, sacrificing 1 to save 5? Or the footbridge. Do you push a large man off a bridge to stop the trolley and save 5 others? Both scenarios summon competing intuitions. In the first, many feel justified, even obligated to pull the lever. The unfortunate death of one balanced against the salvation of many. In the second, the act is more personal and visceral. Pushing the man is direct, intimate, and many recoil from that choice despite identical outcomes. Behind these dilemmas lie deep tensions within ethics. First, utilitarianism, the philosophy of greatest good for the greatest number. This offers a clear answer: pull the lever because lives saved outweighs lives lost. And deontology, championed by Immanuel Kant, insists that certain actions, like killing, using others as a means, are intrinsically wrong regardless of outcomes. The trolley problem acts as a crucible where these principles collide: consequence versus principle, calculation versus conscience. Though just a thought experiment, the trolley problem has leapt into modern life. Autonomous vehicles face analogues. When a crash is unavoidable, should the car protect its passengers, pedestrians, or prioritize overall harm? Medical triage. How do doctors allocate scarce resources during emergencies? And military decisions. When civilian lives are at risk, how does command balance strategy with humanity? These questions are no longer academic. They are urgent and raw. Studies reveal complex human responses. People's choices shift with framing, emotional distance, and cultural background. Some opt to save the many. Others recoil from causing direct harm, even if indirect harm is greater. Neuroscience views these dilemmas as battlegrounds between emotion-driven regions of the brain and more calculated, rational centers, a dance that reveals our true essence. Philosophers have expanded the problem into a myriad of variations. What of pulling the lever too late? What of the person on the track being a loved one? What of uncertain outcomes? The endless permutations remind us life is rarely reducible to simple yes or no answers. Ultimately, the trolley problem holds a mirror to ourselves. Are you the cold calculator who sacrifices one for many? The reluctant bystander who hesitates to act? The rebel who refuses to participate in killing at all? Each choice, imagined or real, reveals facets of moral character, and perhaps an invitation into deeper empathy. Humanity's place in the world. Imagine standing beneath a towering forest, leaves whispering ancient secrets, and the dawn filtering softly through emerald canopies. The air is alive with murmurs, the flutter of wings, the scuttle of small creatures, the almost inaudible hum of life's ongoing miracle. For millennia, humans gazed at the teeming world and named themselves its purpose. In scriptures and myth, in philosophy and science, we placed ourselves atop a living pyramid, nature's final masterpiece, every other being meant to serve, feed, clothe, amuse, or challenge us. Wars were waged against wilderness, the oceans ransacked and rivers dammed, all for human ambition. But in recent centuries, a seed of doubt has taken root in the fertile soil of thought. What if our reign is an illusion, a story we tell ourselves to feel less afraid? What if, instead, we are but threads among countless others in a grand, intricate tapestry, each strand vital, yet none supreme? This is the core of rejecting anthropocentrism, overturning humanity's throne and joining the community of life not as kings, but as kin. Our old stories gave us dominion. Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, ancient texts proclaimed. Later, the age of reason and enlightenment crowned humanity as nature's rational master, conqueror of wilderness, bearer of destiny. Progress brought miracles and peril in equal measure. Cities sprawled, forests fell, the world's wildness tamed or extinguished. Species vanished quietly, while empires rose loudly on the backs of beasts and soil. But as our footprint grew, so did the cracks. Earth's balance shifted, climate change, deserts widened, extinctions cascaded. The myth of human invulnerability unraveled in the face of planetary consequence. Out of crisis came a chorus of new voices. Indigenous traditions, long marginalized, speak of kinship, rivers as ancestors, bears as brothers, the land as living. In these cosmologies, everything carries spirit and story, and harmony is the guiding law, not conquest. Philosophers like Peter Singer challenge us to expand our moral circle. Sentience, not species, becomes the basis for rights. If an animal or alien can suffer, it too matters. Tom Regan argues that animals hold inherent value, a status not granted or earned, but simply belonging. Elsewhere, ecological ethics grow. Aldo Leopold's land ethic urges us to see ethics not as fences for humans, but as bonds encircling soil, water, plant, and creature. Deep ecologists like Arne Naess call for radical humility and the dethronement of human supremacy. Yet the old vision lingers, burnished by culture, business, and belief. Market economies hinge on resource extraction. Legal codes often see nature as either commodity or obstacle. Even some environmental arguments focus on preserving the planet for human pleasure or money, not for its own sake. Much of our language betrays the habit: natural resources, wilderness to conquer, the war on pests. As long as Earth's value is measured by its utility to us, a gulf persists between rhetoric and reverence. Change is daunting. What of jobs, of growth, of hunger and need? For many, human centrality seems both natural and necessary. But then, imagine a world redesigned by other principles. In New Zealand, the Wanganui River is recognised as a legal person, holding rights and protections. Courts around the world debate recognising personhood for forests, glaciers, even animal species. Movements for ecocentrism ask, what if our laws, businesses, and cultures centered not human dominion, but planetary balance? What if justice was possible for wolf and willow, not only for neighbour and citizen? The question turns inward as well. Can such respect heal not just planets, but people? The more we grasp our interdependence, food web, oxygen, water, the cycles of birth and decay, the more ancient fears recede, and new stewardship arises. Let your mind drift back beneath towering trees, where every branch forms a home, every patch of earth a story. How different the world becomes when you realize the bird is not your subject, but your neighbor, the river not your tool, but your elder, the moss a patch of kin on the journey with you. Children raised with stories of kinship often act with care as adults. Communities built on reciprocity weather storm and famine alike. Wisdom, it turns out, springs not from dominion, but from attention and humility. Philosophical humility is practical too. As pandemics, climate disasters, and biodiversity loss escalate, the boundaries between nature and human begin to blur. To heal ourselves, we must heal what sustains us first. Rejecting anthropocentrism is more than an idea. It's a revolution and return. To see our place as part of, not above, and to find strength not in dominion, but belonging. It is a call for new ethics, new art, new rituals, and new economies. To honour Earth's rights is not to forfeit human well-being, but to anchor it in knowledge of the whole. It is to embrace humility that dignifies, not diminishes, to cherish difference, not just utility. It asks us the hard questions. Can cities become forests in disguise? Can education celebrate not just human achievement, but wild wisdom? Can justice learn from the rivers, resilience from the lichen, patience from the stone? Nietzsche's eternal recurrence, living as though forever. Close your eyes and imagine a moment. Any moment, your waking breath, the sound of your footsteps, the touch of a loved one's hand, the flash of memory and hope intertwining. Now imagine living this moment not just once, but again and again, endlessly repeated throughout infinity. Every joy, every pain, every small choice to be relived eternally. This is the haunting, powerful thought that Friedrich Nietzsche called the eternal recurrence. The eternal recurrence is a philosophical hypothesis asserting that the universe and all events within it recur eternally across infinite time and space. But Nietzsche's use goes beyond mere cosmology. It is a challenge, a moral test, and a call to radical affirmation. Imagine if you had to live your entire life, down to every heartbeat, every word, every event, over and over again, forever. Would you despair, rebel, or would you embrace this repetition with joy and resolve, answering life's call with a resounding yes? Nietzsche posed this question as a mirror to our existence. Do you love your life enough to live it eternally, or do you curse it, wilt under the burden of repetition? While the eternal recurrence has roots in ancient thought, in Stoicism and Indian philosophy, Nietzsche co-opted it to craft a vision of life without recourse to the afterlife, redemption, or cosmic justice. There is no salvation, no beyond. The infinite cycles of existence challenge you to live fully, without regrets, because this moment, as complex or painful as it is, recurs without end. It is not a threat, but an invitation to profound responsibility, to make choices so authentic, so true, that you would gladly relive them eternally. The idea defies complacency, demanding that we confront our lives with fierce clarity and embrace existence on its own terms. Central to Nietzsche's thought is the concept of the Übermensch, or Overman, a being who transcends the limitations imposed by conventional morality and nihilism to create new values. The Overman embodies the eternal recurrence's ideal. It lives by joyously affirming life's suffering and beauty alike, refusing nihilism's despair. To this figure, existence is not a burden, but a dance. Chaos and order, ecstasy and grief harmonized in the eternal melody. Nietzsche's challenge is formidable. The thought of relapse, of living life over and over, can weigh heavy. It demands radical courage, acceptance of all our failures, mistakes, and losses as essential to the tapestry of our existence. Would you rejoice in reunion with every painful trial? Could you embrace an eternity that includes your darkest moments? Some find this idea intoxicating, a call to heroic living. Others find it unbearable, a cycle that traps and torments. And therein lies its power. The eternal recurrence forces us to peer beyond comfort and despair, to confront the fullness of life. So does the eternal recurrence hold any truth in a scientific or literal sense? The universe may expand and die, or collapse and birth anew, but the notion of literal infinite repetition remains speculative. Instead, modern readers find in the idea a metaphor for mindfulness, presence, and responsibility. To live as though you would live again is to honor each moment's significance, to cherish the now as if it were eternal. In a world racing toward distraction, consumption, and quick fixes, Nietzsche's return calls for deep engagement, the acknowledgement that this life, only this one, carries all the meaning we can claim. As you prepare to rest, reflect on your own life's eternal recurrence. What would you do differently? What would you hold dear? And what would you embrace fully? As Nietzsche's ancient question spins in your mind, may it inspire you toward a life of earnest authenticity, resilient, expressive, flawed, and gloriously human. As each breath you take, each step you walk, may just echo forever. The brain in a vat. Can we really trust reality? Imagine awakening in a room bathed in ethereal light. Your consciousness floats untethered, memories fragmented and shifting. You reach out, searching for the weight of your own hand, and find only the gentle resistance of a cold, viscous substance. Your body is gone. You are a mind, a whisper of self, suspended in a mysterious chamber. This is the chilling core of the brain in a vat thought experiment, a modern technological successor to philosophy's oldest doubts about the nature of reality itself. Humans from our earliest stories have questioned the trustworthiness of our senses. The world appears rich, vibrant, and solid, yet dream and myth have always warned that all we see and feel might be illusion. The ancient philosopher Plato captured this suspicion in his allegory of the cave. Prisoners bound, forced to watch shadows cast on a wall, believing these flickers to be the sum total of existence. Outside the cave, a world of dazzling reality awaits, but the prisoners, having known only shadows, cannot begin to fathom its truth. Centuries later, Descartes sharpened doubt to a knife point. What if an evil demon, clever, invisible, immeasurably powerful, set out to deceive you in every thought and every sense? What if colour, taste, the sun's warmth, the words of a loved one were all just a master illusion? Descartes constructed this malicious demon only to vanquish it, by finding that his own act of doubting, of thinking, was undeniable proof of his existence. I think, therefore I am. But could he be sure of anything else? The brain in a vat hypothesis updates this ancient worry for the digital age. Imagine you are not really living as yourself, but instead a brain preserved in a tank, fed electrical impulses by a supercomputer. The sights and sounds you experience, the taste of coffee, the pain and pleasure of life, the love you feel, are all simulated by streams of carefully controlled data. If this were true, how could you know? If the simulation was perfect, no experiment could reveal its seams, the colors, textures, even introspective certainty itself, all could be fed to you from outside, the real world utterly hidden. Philosopher Hilary Putnam sharpened this scenario. If your language and perceptions are transplanted into a simulation, your words might refer only to patterns inside the system, not to anything outside in a real world. The meaning of tree or sky becomes ethereal, a shadow play within the code. Science itself now treads the boundaries of this philosophical nightmare. Modern neuroscience peels back the layers of perception, revealing how all sensory experience passes through the brain's mysterious filter. What you take for reality, the vivid scene before your eyes, is but an orchestration of neurons, electrical patterns, and chemical shifts. Virtual reality engineers, these wizards of code, have begun to blur the edges of what's simulated and what's real. With each passing year, our technology edges closer to creating worlds for the senses as rich or richer than those built by nature. Synthetic intelligence learns to mimic, to whisper and persuade. What is real becomes not just a question for philosophers, but a practical concern for tomorrow's scientists and ethicists. Quantum physicists, meanwhile, have found that the very fabric of the universe is not rock solid, but patchwork, sometimes behaving like particles, at others like waves, and always strange at the smallest scales. Has nature itself been hiding its seams? What does it mean to know something if all paths may lead through illusion? If you cannot prove you aren't a brain in a vat, can you ever truly say you know anything outside of your own thoughts? Old answers suggested consensus. If everyone seems to see the sunrise, then the sun must be real. But if all brains are in vats, their consensus means only that the simulation is working correctly, not that reality matches their perception. Philosophers have struggled to devise criteria for knowledge that survive total skepticism. Must we live in perpetual doubt? Or is there a comfort in trusting experience, even if it may be false? The question is not merely intellectual. It stirs deep reactions, fear, anxiety, even a kind of existential vertigo. If nothing is ultimately certain, some fear meaning crumbles and the world becomes cold. Yet for others, confronting this abyss births humility and wonder. The possibility that our world is shadow does not necessitate despair, but instead can inspire awe at the mind's powers of creation and imagination. Contemporary thinkers find reassurance here. If meaning does not come from certainty, then it comes from engagement, from the stories we craft, the questions we ask, and the relationships we forge, in dreams or digital code, in flesh or in fiction. If you pause for just a moment before sleep, notice this. Your perceptions are always mediated. You see, hear, and sense only after your brain has processed, interpreted, and filtered the raw data. Does it matter if the world you touch is really there, or if it is, as the philosophers warn, an elaborate hallucination? Can joy, connection, beauty, and courage retain their meaning regardless of source? Most people find themselves living in the middle, accepting the practical reliability of perception, but always leaving a window open to mystery. If the world is but a dream, what of justice, morality? Would cruelty still matter if the victim were a simulation? Do aspirations for kindness and love still hold weight if their objects are in a code world? Ethical philosophy evolves in response. Some thinkers argue that consciousness and experience, not substance, are the benchmarks of meaning. If you or any other entity experiences pain, the reality of the experience, not the reality of the substrate, demands respect. In this way, the brain in a vat becomes a crucible for morals. Can you act with dignity and care, creating meaning, even when the world is uncertain? The idea of total skepticism is not defeat. It is the deep call to wonder that lies at the heart of philosophy and spiritual seeking. When certainty vanishes, the universe opens, an unfathomable invitation to explore, reflect, and create. In questioning reality itself, you join a lineage of thinkers, dreamers, and wanderers stretching across millennia. Philosophical Anarchism. Close your eyes and imagine a world without rulers. No kings upon their thrones, no presidents commanding armies, no police enforcing laws. A place governed not by force or decree, but by the spontaneous order of free individuals united by mutual respect and bound only by shared ethics. This is the audacious vision of philosophical anarchism, a radical challenge to the very foundations of political authority, social order, and governance. Since human societies first took shape, authority structures have dominated, shaping laws, norms, and hierarchies. Kings, priests, and governments claim the right to direct, command, and control. We have been taught to obey these structures as natural or necessary for peace and prosperity. Yet, from ancient times, voices of dissent have echoed through the ages. Philosophers like Socrates questioned the legitimacy of imposed authority, standing defiant against oppressive systems. The Greek cynics, medieval heretics, and early social contract critics sowed seeds of inquiry about the nature of power and freedom. Philosophical anarchism crystallized in modern thought, championed by thinkers such as William Godwin, Pierre Joseph Proudhon, and later Emma Goldman and Robert Paul Wolff. Although differing in specifics, these voices unite in doubting that any government or external authority holds rightful power over an individual. At its core, philosophical anarchism asks, what justifies authority? Laws and governments claim coercive power, backing commands with force. Yet if legitimacy arises only through consent, and if individuals possess intrinsic rights to self-governance, can authority ever bind freely without absurdity or violence? Philosophical anarchists argue that almost no government meets the standard of true voluntary consent. Instead, authority is enforced through laws controlling behavior, economic dependencies, and social pressures. Moreover, this authority can be abused. Corruption, injustice, oppression hide behind the guise of order. The promise of protection often masks control. Philosophers like Robert Paul Wolff painted vivid pictures of conscience in conflict with power. Philosophers like Robert Paul Wolff painted vivid pictures of conscience in conflict with power. Wolff argued that true autonomy demands acting according to our own reasoned judgment, not following orders that misalign with our morality. He famously declared that if obedience overrides conscience, the individual is morally compromised. This tension resonates powerfully. Every person feels moments when authority demands something unjust, when standing firm means breaking a law or defying a command. Philosophical anarchism exhorts us towards such moral courage, encouraging refusal of unjust laws and demanding radical self-governance. But does the absence of formal authority entail chaos? Anarchists imagine meaningful structure arising spontaneously from human cooperation, collaborations, and communities built on trust, autonomy, and mutual aid. Examples emerge from history: indigenous governance, intentional communities, and modern cooperatives demonstrate that order need not be shackled by hierarchy. Decentralized decision-making, horizontal structures, and voluntary association becomes pillars of true freedom. The crisis of modern mass society fuels the anarchist's plea. Bureaucracy, surveillance, and state power threaten to erode individual dignity. New forms of governance must reimagine freedom beyond control. Philosophical anarchism is not merely political theory, but a lived ethic. It demands honesty, responsibility, and respect for others' autonomy, recognizing that true freedom flourishes only in communities of equals. It challenges not only governments, but social traditions and norms that dampen individual spirit or concentrate power unjustly. Critics argue that philosophical anarchism is utopian or naive, a romantic dream ignoring the necessity of law for peace and justice. But anarchists retort that too often laws serve privilege rather than justice, and that true peace arises only where individuals freely coexist, not where power compels obedience. The challenge is the ongoing experiment. Can societies build order without rulers, coercion, or enforced obedience? As you prepare for rest, imagine a world where each person chooses their path with wisdom and kindness, where bonds of freedom and respect hold communities together. Imagine the courage it takes to question, to resist, and to act in accordance with conscience. Philosophical anarchism invites us to imagine freedom not as chaos, but as order wrought from mutual autonomy, a call to rethink power and our place within its shadows. Moral relativism. Picture a bustling marketplace somewhere in the world, an exchange of smiles, words, scents, and customs flowing like the colors of a grand tapestry. Each culture brings with its own stories about good and evil, justice and duty, honor and shame. But what if these stories, so rich and diverse, hold no absolute truths? What if morality itself is not universal, but fluid, shifting with context, culture, or individual perspective? This is the provocative and often misunderstood realm of moral relativism. From the earliest days of humanity, people have grappled with questions of right and wrong, yet these answers differ wildly. What one society embraces, another condemns. Practices deemed virtuous in one culture might be taboo or even horrifying in another. Moral relativism holds that moral judgments are not absolute truths, but reflections of cultural, societal, or personal beliefs. There is no universal right or wrong, only the relative rules that bind communities. Imagine the rich variety, from honor-based codes that prize loyalty over individual rights, to legalistic frameworks where consequences define morality, to spiritual paths teaching compassion as the highest good. None of these can be judged entirely by a single standard without risking unfairness and misunderstanding. The concept may seem radical, even dangerous, especially when moral foundationalism, the belief in objective, unchanging morals, has dominated religious and ethical thought for centuries. If all morality is relative, critics charge, do we risk descending into chaos? Could relativism justify any action, no matter how cruel, if only it aligns with a group's beliefs? Does it erode the possibility of cross-cultural dialogue or global justice? Supporters respond differently. Moral relativism, they argue, is not an endorsement of wickedness, but a shield against ethnocentrism. It cautions against imposing one culture's values onto another and invites humility, seeing moral frameworks as adaptive tools, not commandments. Philosophers and anthropologists have long studied morality's variability. Franz Boas, a pioneering anthropologist, revealed in the early 20th century how deeply culture shapes values, practices, and concepts of right and wrong. Within ethics, descriptive moral relativism observes this diversity. Meta-ethical relativism suggests moral truths depend on cultural acceptance. Normative relativism advocates tolerance and understanding of different moral perspectives. Yet, within all forms, questions remain. Are some values more justified, more rational, or more conducive to well-being than others? Can we reconcile respect for diversity with universal human rights? In today's interconnected world, moral relativism gains practical importance. Through travel, media, and migration, cultures collide and intertwine. The challenge? How to navigate conflicting values without erasing identity or retreating into dogma. Consider issues like women's rights, environmental ethics, or freedom of expression. Different societies hold diverse views, and moral relativism urges dialogue, compromise, and deep listening. At the same time, pressing questions linger. When do we intervene? When does respect become tolerance of injustice? On a personal level, moral relativism invites introspection. Our own values have roots in family, education, experiences, and temperament. Recognizing this contingency can foster humility and empathy towards others. Yet, it also compels us to confront contradictions within ourselves, to choose which values to uphold amidst competing influences. It asks, what does it mean to live ethically in a world without absolute anchors? Moral relativism is a dance on a razor's edge, honoring diversity without dissolving into nihilism, encouraging tolerance without forbidding criticism, seeking understanding without abandoning conviction. Philosophers have grappled with maintaining this balance. For some, the goal is a reflective equilibrium where reason and cultural insight engage in ongoing dialogue. At its heart, moral relativism invites us to meet difference not with fear or contempt, but curiosity and respect. It makes us question our certainties and opens doors to new perspectives. In quiet moments before sleep, ponder the great mosaic of human values, how each piece, no matter how different, contributes to the whole. Our moral journeys are personal roads woven from the threads of culture, empathy, and reason. The mystery of consciousness. Imagine for a moment drifting through the vast theatre of experience. Sight, sound, emotion. Life's colours swirl within you, vivid and immediate. Yet beneath this parade of impressions, a question arises, a riddle more elusive than the edge of a dream. What is consciousness, and how does it burn within the silent machinery of flesh? At the dawn of awareness, something stirs, a light, subtle and irreducible. You look at a sunset, taste honey, feel sorrow or hope. These are not just neural computations, but qualia, the irreducibly personal side of experience. No scientist, no magical machine can climb into the furnace of you-ness and behold the world as you do. There, at the heart of every thought and feeling, consciousness stands as a challenge to reason itself. From the earliest days, thinkers grappled with this enigma. Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, drew a line: mind and body, soul and matter, forever apart. I think, therefore I am, trusting lived experience while doubting the whole world outside. As centuries pressed forward, more sought to close the gap. Could consciousness simply be reduced to the brain's biology, to molecules and synapses? Yet, the leap between physical event and felt experience, the heart problem, as David Chalmers named it, still remained unfathomable. Why does the firing of neurons produce the rose's scent, the ache of longing, the flash of an image in your mind? Why, in the universe of matter and energy, does there emerge something to whom it all appears? Modern neuroscience slices deeper than ever before, mapping circuits, tracking thoughts, awed by the brain's staggering complexity. Billions of synapses, billions of moments. Yet even scientists pause. For all their data, consciousness remains invisible behind the curtain. All discoveries, all measurements must pass through the one thing science cannot yet explain, the light that is I. In parallel, artificial intelligence and robotics stretch towards sentience. As machines learn and adapt, debate erupts. Can silicon ever awaken? Can a simulation, no matter how precise, host real feeling? Or is something essential forever missing? A soul, a spark? Philosophers have answered this in 1,000 different ways. Materialists argue that mind is what brain does. To them, consciousness is a computational trick, a side effect of matter in motion. Dualists defend a separate substance, a mind or ghost in the machine, perhaps non-physical, but just as real. Panpsychists propose that consciousness is woven into all matter, that even atoms whisper faint awareness, and the mind is the gathering of these tiny lights. Functionalists consider consciousness an emergent property, something that arises when complexity and information flow reach a mysterious threshold. And in the East, traditions like Advaita Vedanta or forms of Buddhism imagine consciousness at the stage of reality itself, changeless, ever-present, the ocean in which all phenomena appear and vanish. Across the world, consciousness is both science's frontier and poetry's muse. In Eastern cultures, awareness is the breath of the universe. Meditation seeks to merge individual and cosmic mind, dissolving boundaries in pure knowing. In the West, being alert, awake, or mindful is praised as the foundation for wisdom, growth, and empathy. But all traditions agree there is something sacred in the ability to feel, to know, and to wonder. As digital minds grow more sophisticated, we now ask, can machines be truly conscious or merely mimic consciousness? Is it possible for a computer, no matter how advanced, to enjoy music, despair at loss, or dream in colors? Can a mind arise from lines of code as it does from neurons and blood? This question ripples forward, raising new moral frontiers. If machines feel, do they deserve rights? If the essence of mind is software, can it be copied, preserved, or shared? Despite countless theories, consciousness remains a dazzling star at the edge of our understanding, a door to mystery and humility. Perhaps, as some suggest, we await a new science or a new philosophy, a breakthrough to bridge awareness and matter. Perhaps the question is itself the gift, a nudge that keeps humanity seeking, wondering, and caring. Imagine your own consciousness, the gentle nudge that guides you, the warmth that colors your memory, the wonder that brings solace. Reflect on what it means to be, not as a recursive puzzle, but as the foundation of all you know. Lie still and notice. Awareness is there, even in silence, even before thought or memory. It is the pulse behind your breath and the glow within your rest. Let philosophy's questions swirl with the stardust within your mind. Is consciousness fundamental or merely an accident of evolution? Will it one day be explained, or will it forever remain a private and holy flame? If a machine feels, is it kin, a new spark kindled in the universe's long darkness? As we reach the end of our philosophical exploration, remember this: the most controversial ideas are not meant to be swallowed whole or dismissed with a shrug. Instead, they are invitations to question, to reflect, to challenge, and to choose. Each theory, no matter how unsettling, expands the limits of our understanding, urging us to find new perspectives on old truths. It is in this process of wrestling with difficult questions, sometimes with discomfort, sometimes with awe, that we deepen our insight and compassion. Philosophy offers us not answers, but extraordinary tools to build lives of clarity, connection, and meaning. May the echoes of these philosophical riddles accompany you into rest, fueling dreams and waking thoughts alike. And may you always find the courage to keep asking, keep wondering, and keep growing, wherever those questions may lead.